Persian guy, I listened to your response to, I don't remember the name of the person regarding the death penalty. I think there's a couple areas that I would disagree with you and like to offer some counter arguments. I guess I should say to begin with that I do oppose the death penalty um, in all cases for a variety of reasons that we need not get into. I guess not the least of which is that if you give the death penalty to somebody who's innocent, it's irrevocable. Uh, also, um, I just philosophically am opposed to taking people that you have captured and detained and then murdering them. I oppose that when killers do it. When they kidnap somebody, detain them, secure them in some fashion, and then kill them. And I oppose it when the state does it. It's not like it's an act of self-defense at that point. But beyond those considerations, let's talk about your arguments. You say that you believe that the death penalty is acts as a deterrence. Well, there's some dispute about this, but I think by and large, the consensus is among objective people about this who have looked at the studies, even those who support the death penalty, is that there really is not any evidence, or any real convincing evidence that the death penalty uh, deters crime on a large scale. Most people who defend the death penalty, who look at these studies, have just shifted the argument. They no longer talk in terms of deterrence, but they talk in terms of justice. They see it as a eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth sort of thing. And so usually, at least from the sources I've read, the deterrence argument has just about completely disappeared from people who make the case for the death penalty. Uh, uh, Nevertheless, since you've made it, let me say to you that there's an interesting way in which you think that murdering someone is largely a rational affair. That is, if you think to yourself, "I'm going to, I'll murder this person, but I'm going to be punished by the death penalty. Therefore, that's going to deter me." Deter me. I think people don't usually decide to kill people in a sort of cool, in sort of logical manner, unless, of course, they're war planners who work in the Pentagon or something like that, or some other government that's given to political strategic murder. Uh, but beyond that, most human beings don't. When they kill other people, they don't do so in such a cool fashion and sit down and think about the consequences. It's usually an act of desperation, impulsive, uh, or if there's any thinking process that goes on at all, it is energized by passions and emotions that are out of control. So I think there's a way in which your view of deterrence presupposes um, thought processes that rarely exist by people who actually commit murder or rape. Um, so Beyond that, there's also just kind of interesting studies have done fairly recently called the brutalization effect, and that is, it's the idea that there is some evidence that the presence of the death penalty in society actually encourages a murder as opposed to deterring it. And that is the knowledge for some people that that they feel so out of control, and they realize that the only way for them to be stopped is for someone to stop them, but they don't have the wherewithal or the inner permission to kill themselves, will actually hope to be caught and be killed. And also, the brutalization effect. Also, there's a sense in which a culture of violence, like exemplified in the death penalty, um, has the consequence of making more of its uh, more of the citizens of that society and that culture to actually um, take up that violence on their own and kill people. Um, but it's a fairly new theory. I don't know how well tested it is, but there it does seem to be some evidence. It may not be particularly solid. But the last argument that you made, I thought was really kind of curious. You said that your argument for the death penalty is a belief that you have that the death penalty should be worldwide. Therefore, it's not subject to any considerations about how they would be played out in societies in which there is racial prejudice. Well, here's the thing. Um, it's nice to think about the death penalty in such abstract terms, but if it were to be instituted worldwide, it's going to be instituted in real places, in real societies, many of which have minorities, and many of which are subject to the biases and prejudices that have historically prevailed in terms of treating minority peoples differently. Uh, your theory of the death penalty sounds good in a vacuum, but unfortunately, the death penalty that you propose will not be imposed in a vacuum. It'll be imposed in places where these prejudices and biases will prevail and will be influential. Now, if you can name a society that that has a minority, it's had a minority for some time, over a few centuries, um, in which there has not been any prejudice or bias, then please tell us about it, because I don't know what it is. Uh, and because I think I'm a pretty well-read person, but I'm scratching my head after listening to your video, thinking, where is this nirvana in which the death penalty can be exacted without the influence of prejudice or bias at all? So, so your theory is sort of nice in abstract terms, but in terms of the real world, I'm afraid it won't work. It won't work. People will be treated differently. At least that's the testimony of history. If you know of some other society, some examples that they don't do that, or you can give a version of history that convinces most people that that prejudice and bias doesn't influence the operations of a government or a state, then by all means give it. But I don't think it's going to be